The Honourable Member Stuart Nash.
Much, Mr. Chair. There's some quite interesting dilemmas that are raised in Clause 30. And this is new sections 87B is the Copyright Act. And what we're talking about here is what infringes copyright and what doesn't infringe copyright. And there are some interesting precedents around this. If we look at 87, it talks about the free public playing or showing or communication of a work. And for example, if you play something and it's free, i.e. people haven't come to see a movie or hear a soundtrack, then it says here it does not infringe any copyright in the communication of that work. For example, you can have a fire truck, you can have a stereo on the top of that fire truck, you can drive around the streets and play music, and you have not infringed copyright in any way, shape or form because no one has paid to come out and specifically hear a concert, or they are not led to believe that they are paying to hear any song for what matter, for example. But there are some interesting precedents around this, and one I remember, Mr. Chair, and you might remember yourself, Mr. Chair, is there was a National Party conference, and they played the Mutton Bird song, and I think it might have been Nature, and it might have been Nature. At Mr. 40, I think a good nickname for Mr. 40 might be Rip Van Winkle, because he slept for 40 years, came back and things had changed. Nothing's changed with Mr. 40 over there. But anyway, Mr. Chair, I go back to my example. At a National Party conference, they played the song Nature by the Mutton Birds. And the lead singer, Don McGlashan of the Mutton Birds, came out and said, and I quote, Mr. Speaker, he said he would rather have sex with an ugly crayfish than have one of his songs played at a National Party conference. And there was a big debate around this about what constituted copyright. Had the National Party infringed a copyright by playing someone's song without their permission at a gathering where people had actually paid to attend that gathering? And I must admit, Mr. Chair, that same case came to mind when I was watching about the 3-second snippet on the news of the last National Party conference, when I think all the members were quizzing the Minister of Finance around asset sales and were disagreeing with him. And they played a Feelers song. There was a Feelers song played, and I happen to know that the Feelers were huge supporters of Helen Clark when she was Minister of Arts and Culture. And I wondered to myself, goodness me, I wonder if the National Party stole that song, or they actually paid money or got permission to play that song in an area where people had gathered for a specific purpose. And does that infringe copyright? And I'm looking through this bill, and I'm not too sure if it infringes copyright or not, because what it says here, and this is part 2 of Clause 87 of the Copyright Act, which has been amended. It says, for the purposes of this section, the public playing or showing of a communication work is not free if the audience has paid for admission to the place where the communication of work is played, or goods and services are supplied at the venue or a place which forms part of the prices of, or the venue is a hotel, motel, camping ground, etc., where people are, for the purpose of a fee, have temporary accommodation. The audience is made up of persons residing at that hotel, motel, camping ground or other place. So I was reading this and I was very unsure, perhaps the Minister could answer, I was very unsure if, for example, at a National Party conference, the broadcasting of a song infringed copyright if the National Party had not got specific authorisation to play such a song. But the other thing this brings up, for example, if I went to a hotel to see a concert by a certain band and I paid money to get in, but then on a jukebox, for example, they were playing Rolling Stones songs, but I'd paid money to go in to hear a song played, would that infringe copyright? Or maybe not a jukebox, because I'm sure there are rules around that, because you put your money in. If they'd put a CD in, for example, and that is counted as broadcasting the Rolling Stones in a public place where people have paid to see or to hear music, does that infringe copyright? This is a little bit unclear in that area, Mr. Chair, or maybe I'm not reading it correctly. That's probably the case. The Minister, no doubt, will be able to stand up and clarify that, because the implications for this is that pubs, bars, hotels, camping grounds, etc., will need to be very, very careful. For example, let me give you one example. There's a school in Napier, and it doesn't have a bell that rings to denote the end of interval or the beginning of lunchtime. It has music. It plays music. And I, Mr. Chair,
I call the honourable member Jackie Dean.
I move that